Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Mark Singh. I'm the Deputy Festival Director of KAFFNY. Thank you for joining us for this 14th year of our annual film festival. If you're watching this Q&A, that means hopefully you've watched our centerpiece feature film, which is Gyopo. I'm joined now with the writer-director, Samuel Lee, and actress, Sally Yoo. Hi, guys. Could you give a brief introduction? We can start with Sam.
Hi, Sam here. I made this film a couple of years ago. It took me 4 years to complete. I actually started it in 2015. So yeah, it's been a long journey, and it's been great to have it showing all around.
Great.
Hi everyone, I'm Sally. I met Sam when I was living in Korea in 2012. I think he asked me one day, he was like, can you be in a movie? And then I was like, sure. And then I didn't hear anything about it for a couple more years. And then the year that I left Korea, I think it was, he was like, okay, we're shooting. And I was like, all right. And it was an amazing experience that I really loved and enjoyed.
Cool. So I'll be asking quite a few questions about this for both of you, but starting with you, Sam. So this film had no script and essentially no crew other than yourself. So what made you think that you could do this? Make a movie with no script and no crew.
I was at maybe the 10-year mark of living in Korea, and that usually for most people, when you hit the 7 or 10-year mark, you feel sick of it. You want to leave. And so both of you are frozen. Can you see me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay. So I said before I leave Korea, I wanted to leave. Before I leave Korea, I should make a movie about my experiences in Korea. And so these are all these sort of little stories I collected over the years. And some things happened to me, some things happened to friends of mine. And so this is sort of fiction based on facts. Yeah, I just had to do it.
No, that's great. So what I like about this film is that it's kind of the experience as a viewer is similar. I imagined how it was as actually the filmmaking process, just that it's sort of there's a lot of process of sort of discovery and becoming, but not necessarily resolution, or people don't necessarily arrive with it where they are. And that fits in nicely with the themes of this Gyopo group that is kind of discovering who they are, and also they're of this millennial age set where what traditionally was like the 20s period of figuring out who you are and finding your place gets extended longer, perhaps, and it's a function of many things in society. But what I saw you had mentioned in your description for the film when you submitted it was that the film really came together in the editing process. Could you talk about how long you spent editing the film and sort of what that process was? Was it just putting things in the right order? Was it things that didn't fit? Or just touch on that.
The whole film for me was like a jigsaw puzzle. Can you see me? I know you guys are okay.
Yes.
So yeah, it took a long time. I finished shooting in 2016, and I was still cutting all the way up to 2019 probably, and it was actually another film festival. I had my world premiere in Toronto, Real Asian Film Festival, and they were the ones that said, you should finish it because we want to show it. And I was at a certain point, I kind of gave up on it. It had taken so long, and I just sat on it, and then and they forced me to finish it. And so yeah, I mean, I shot all these different stories. I had no idea how they would all fit together. So it was a big puzzle for me. And it was, yeah, I mean, I had to show it to a whole bunch of different people to get feedback and figure out what works, what doesn't work. And it took a long time for it to like finally settle into the story that it is right now.
How does that compare to kind of what you had in your head before you started the process?
I had no idea what this film was going to look like. I just knew that I didn't have a script, but I had a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet would be like the columns would be like the time of day, and the rows would be the characters, and I kind of knew what they would be doing throughout the day, and I didn't know how I would jump from character to character in terms of the edit. So, but I just knew that I had like a story, like like one of the cells in the spreadsheet would say, Sally goes visits her drug dealer. So I knew on that particular day that when I was going to shoot that, I would go over to her apartment. We shoot the stuff where she's brushing her teeth, and then we go over to Charles's house and have her have a conversation with the drug dealer there. So I just knew that, okay, on this day, I'm going to be shooting these two things. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but I have kind of an idea what I think is going to happen. So I would just tell them, just have this conversation or talk about that.
Okay, cool. So Sally, could you speak to that from your experience as being the actress who, you know, there isn't a script that you can review and sort of get into character beforehand necessarily. So was it chaotic? Was it a fun process? Speak to that.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually, yesterday was the first time that I actually got to see Gyopo in its entirety. And I had no idea while we were filming it what the, I didn't even really know what the other storylines were going to be like or how any of it was going to fit in. Most of the experience filming too, because it was ad-libbed, I had like nothing really to prepare, and I felt like I was really just existing in my space, quite literally, because some of the shots were filmed in my apartment. And there was actually that one scene, I think, in the picnic where we, the actors, did not realize being filmed.
Oh.
And I think we looked up at one point and realized Sam had his camera on us, and we were like, is this part of the movie? Are you in the movie? So yeah, it just felt very natural the whole time. And I think it was very easy, I think, to give honest performances that way because we were just being ourselves, or at least for me.
I think Sally showed up to the picnic kind of hungover that day.
It's very possible.
So it's funny that you know the picnic thing kind of just came together because that's when that's the only time you really get everybody in the same place, right? And then otherwise it's kind of all up in other directions. Was that essential? Did you know that needed to be in the movie, Sam?
I did. I knew that this would have to be kind of like a pivot point in the film, and that was just pure hell to shoot because we had this dog that was very, very popular. Like the crowds were like forming around the dog because in most Koreans don't see a dog that's so beautifully luscious and fluffy. So he was just such a star attraction. And then on top of that, like I had 2 cameras and I'm acting in it, and I've got like 6 other people sitting around me and I'm trying to direct it. And also because there's no crew, I'm also doing the sound. Yeah, it was a real nightmare for me, although I'm sure no one else noticed that I was having a hell of a time trying to put things, and the cameras would heat up because it was a hot day, and they would just shut down randomly, and we'd be rolling or we'd be acting or doing something, and then I'd turn and look and see the cameras were shut off. And so, okay, we got to do that again, guys. So it was, yeah, it was a difficult day. It really did.
I think the whippets must have made it easier, though.
Paul, that was legitimately Paul's reaction. He was so happy to try a whippet. And it was fun. That was like, I was so happy to see both Sally and I'm just being like, I've never seen a whippet happen before. It was, yeah, just to capture all of that on film was a real treat.
Cool. So let's pivot a little bit. One of the things I kind of like about the film is that it's not too polished. It's not like politically correct. There are sort of the sort of darker or more authentic or messier sort of themes that come out of it. And we were speaking of Paul. So for me, he was sort of, I guess, the heart of the movie. Might have been that he had the dog, but I really I connected with him. And also, you know, he is a Gyopo man, which I don't know if that's somewhat like of a comic book feeling in there. But one of the things I wanted to bring up is, so your character, right, is more of a bad boy, taking advantage of sort of drunk women. And you sort of like a Dorian Gray character, you kind of infect Paul's character with that idea. And then he perhaps pursues it, but he's a good guy, but then he ends up getting his ass beat because of it. And so I guess if you just talk a little bit about sort of the themes that you were kind of representing there.
Yeah, I think Asian male sexuality is sort of a thing that as a topic, as a theme in this film. One of the things I've noticed about Asian masculinity is that when you grow up as a third culture person in say the North American context, Asian men are typically not on the top of the wanted list. So you feel slightly emasculated growing up here, and then when you go to Korea, suddenly you shoot up to a level of, hey, I'm appreciated now, and then it gets to your head and you start behaving badly. And I just wanted to capture that, and my character is the sort of penultimate version of that dastardly, despicable behavior. I mean, it just sort of evolved into that character. That wasn't my original intent going into it, but then I was like, oh yeah, I think I should probably discuss this a little bit. Also asking other characters to play, bad people. Most of the Gyopos were my friends, and so nobody wanted to play a bad person. And also I wanted to none of my friends are bad people, so I wanted them to play themselves. So I took it upon myself to be the bad character in the film, which is kind of weird because I had access to me a lot, so I ended up in kind of like this through line in the beginning anyway, and so it's a bit confusing, like, why are we following this terrible person all around? And,
I had that thought while watching the film. I was like, he is not the most compelling person. Why do I keep on seeing him?
No, he's a despicable, horrible character, and I was fine with doing that. I'm like, I'm trying to make a film, so it's fiction. But yeah, so none of the other Gyopos are like terribly horrible people. But that's because I wanted people to play themselves and sort of delve into. And Gyopo Man is actually, that's his own vlog. You can find Gyopo Man on YouTube. He was doing that for a while. I don't know if he's still doing that, but that was the legit thing that he was doing. And I was like, okay, let's use that.
Very cool. Awesome. Okay, just a couple more questions to finish up, because I know we don't have too much more time left. So I grew up in North America. I had not been to Seoul, but in the film, you make it seem like a very vibrant and exciting place. It seems sort of almost like this paradise for young people, kind of discovering themselves. So as two people who have lived over there, other than sort of the Korean heritage and sort of your sort of ethnic background, what would you say made that a unique place? And just some things that you appreciated in Korea versus the North American experience.
I'll let Sally go first.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I guess kind of speaking to what Sam was saying earlier about how there's like this hierarchy of Asian male dominance, but then I think that's also true for just being Asian or being a minority in America. And so for me, when I went to Seoul, I had this experience of not being the minority anymore. And for me, that was really freeing, because I think I grew up with this idea where I kind of had to keep my head down, be quiet, don't be so bold, don't, stick out. But being in Seoul, I was relieved of that kind of pressure, and I was able to really come out of my shell and discover myself more and have this permission that yes, you can be all the stuff that we told you not to be when you're growing up. And so that was my experience, I think, of Seoul. I think a lot of other Gyopos resonate with that too.
Yeah, I have this theory that I believe that every single Gyopo will make their pilgrimage to Korea at one point in their lives. And I mean, if you manage to live in Korea forever, you'll meet every other Korean on the planet, because they'll come and visit. But I guess for me, yeah, when I moved to Korea, I was like, okay, I want to sort of subtract racial, being a minority thing from my life. And when you're there, what ends up happening is that you turn into a hidden immigrant, and what I discovered is when I got there, I was like, oh, I kind of look like these people, but I'm not these people. And it's, at one point, Sally even talks about that in the film. And it truly is hard to connect with the natives. So, and then as Kyopos, we make up this term called Korean Koreans, to distinguish ourselves or to distinguish them from us, and that we're not really them. So it's kind of, for me anyway, it was really weirdly disheartening and liberating to realize, oh, I don't belong anywhere. And when you come to that conclusion, it's like, oh, okay, so then screw it. I'm just gonna be me. I'll like do whatever I want, anywhere I want. It doesn't matter if no one accepts me or if I'm like the dominant, person in the room or whatever, or in the culture. So just be. And I think that's a big takeaway for a lot of us that sort of live that weird expat life there. And then you just get weirdly caught up in that weird expat life, like, making money and hanging out with other English-speaking people and just doing stuff, going to bars, getting drunk, smoking cigarettes, getting into fights and stuff. Yeah.
That was a great answer from both of you. I think that there's probably a lot of truth in that. Good to hear. Okay, just ending up. If you did a sequel, how would the pandemic, the coronavirus, have affected your Gyopos? Can you, Sam, can you speak to any of the characters where they'd be?
Oh my God, I don't know. Never even thought about that. Actually, I wanted to do a sequel called Korean Koreans, but it would have no Gyopos in it whatsoever. It would just be, like the native Koreans. But it wouldn't be true to life because my perspective on Korean Koreans is nothing like how they think. So, but yeah, in terms of the pandemic and the people, and I have no idea how people are responding to it. I think people living in Korea are having an easier time of it because that's one country that's handled the pandemic better. But sure, stateside and in parts of Canada, it's been a little bit of a rough go.
Okay, well, thank you both. I guess I will ask, are there any other projects that you're working on or what's next? And also, if you have any social media that you would like to share for people to find out more about what you're working on, it's your opportunity to do that as well.
I'm currently studying, I'm in school right now. I'm getting my Master's of Fine Arts at a university here in Toronto. And so I'm just sort of focused on my scholastics and just, having a film showing at a festival has been kind of an extra treat and a bonus for me. And I haven't really been thinking about, in terms of my social media, I don't really do any of that. I should try to put more effort into it. So yeah, there's no point in me shouting out anything. But I gotta say, it's been great. This is the first time I've seen Sally in years. And,
yeah, it's great seeing you again.
Yeah, it's these last 20 minutes have been great. I just want to catch up, but here we are.
We'll catch up next time.
Okay, yeah, it's good.
And Sally, are you working on any other creative projects?
Unfortunately not. I'm taking a little hiatus from acting. I'm studying as well, programming. If anyone's looking for a programmer, let me know. But that's about it.
Maybe you can share your LinkedIn or something.
Yeah, just Sally Yoo. Find me on LinkedIn. Disney, Google, what's up?
Yes. You need your diversity hires. Getting a Korean woman on your company is going to look as great optics for your company. So definitely give Sally a call.
Definitely. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining this Q&A. And from KAFFNY, we look forward to seeing more work from the both of you in the future. And thank you, and have a great rest of the day. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.